candidates. That's Le Parisien's front page, and obvious front page news, although of course we all knew that was going to happen.
We did.
Le Parisien inside on their cartoon have got Sarkozy as a rugby player, saying not even a frozen pitch will put him off. That's after the France-Ireland match was postponed this week because of the frozen pitch, but everything seems to be against him, but nothing's going to put him off, they report inside. They actually talked to one of France's most famous advertising men, who reckons Sarkozy's doing quite a good job of trying to convince the public to look at him afresh, judge him on his programme for this election and not on his record of the last 5 years. He actually thinks the slogan, the La France Force, Strong France, is actually a pretty good slogan. At least it's short and snappy, I suppose. And he does seem to have won around some ordinary people, though, in that TV interview last night. Some of the ordinary people that they talked to in the street say that actually they do think he's got some good ideas going forward into the next election. But even those who support his ideas say that they've been disappointed by his record over the last 5 years, that he's let them down. And that's the problem, really, is that record. If you do support his liberal reforms, then he's not gone far enough. And if you don't, then, well, he's responsible for the recession and France's soaring unemployment. Essentially, that's the problem, that he's more or less putting forward the same ideas that he had in 2007, says the paper, but the economic context has changed completely. That's the focus for La Croix in their editorial here, the countryside of the campaign, the landscape of the campaign, rather. They say that it's the European situation that's the problem, really. On the one hand, that should help him out, because he ought to be able to sell himself by saying, at least I'm going in the same direction in terms of austerity policy as other European leaders like Merkel, and I've managed the crisis fairly well. But the problem is that direction of travel that Europe's going in is losing credibility with voters.
What about the right-wing press then? What are they saying?
Well, Le Figaro, a paper you ought to think would make Sarkozy happy today, seeing as apparently even UMP politicians are complaining that they're too favourable in their coverage. They've got Sarkozy reforming for a stronger France as a headline, but the editorial doesn't actually defend his record, even in the paper that supports him the most. It's headlined The Second Rupture, rupture being, of course, his big campaign slogan from 2007, and they say what he said last night shows that he's prepared to break with French tradition again and produce more liberal reforms that would make France more competitive. But even they say he needs to break with his record of the last 5 years. Of course, the alternative critique over at Libération is that his new proposals are not new. It's just the same thing he came up with 5 years ago. They accuse him of being very populist on this front page. They've got Sarkozy thinks he's the voice of the people as a front page, but they say the French people will not forget, even if his rhetoric is populist and about the people now, that this is the bling-bling president who took Carla Bruni on luxury holidays and had dinner in one of Paris's most expensive restaurants on the night of the last election. That's what French people remember. That's at least as much the reason that he's unpopular as any of his policies, and it's not something they'll forget easily.
Quite harsh, isn't it? Is that the toughest critique that you found?
Oh no, over at La communist paper L'Humanité, they've got he wants to finish his dirty work as a headline, which is pretty strongly worded. This 34% on the front page is how much, according to them, the average wage of France's CEOs has gone up since he's been president, while, of course, unemployment has soared on the other hand. So they say ordinary people have done worse and worse, and they actually compare him, as Le Canal Enchaîné did yesterday, to George Bush, saying that he's trying to steal policies from the Tea Party to get himself re-elected, but they point out that's not actually even going down very well with the average American voter, where polls still look like Obama would win an election, so it's going to go down even worse in France.
Elena, thanks very much. There's Elena here with the French papers here on France 24. Coming up then, focus, women and children massacred and tens of thousands of cattle stolen. We're going to be reporting from the world's newest nation, South Sudan, as the country is plagued by ethnic clashes. That's with you after the break on France 24.